Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside the Philippines. Today's story comes from Marcus, a Canadian construction worker who thought he was finally getting his shot at happiness. After years of working up north, raising kids, and going through a rough divorce, he met someone online who changed everything. She was kind, caring, said all the right things. So Marcus did something bold. He gave it all up to be with her in the Philippines. What happened next is something he's still trying to make sense of. This one's about trust, silence, and what it really costs when someone walks out without a word. Stick around, and if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more real stories just like this one. Let's get into it. Here's Marcus's story in his own words. Hi, I don't really know how to start this, so I'll just say it straight. I blew up my whole life for a woman in the Philippines and she vanished without a word. I'm 47 years old. I've worked construction most of my life. I've been cold, tired, broke, divorced, and worn down before. I thought I knew what pain felt like, but standing alone in a hotel room in the Philippines, staring at an empty bed and a dead phone, that was a whole new kind of stupid heartbreak. If you're reading this and thinking, yeah, another guy who got played, trust me, I've already said worse to myself. I didn't come over there chasing girls or pretending I was some big shot. I wasn't trying to live like a king. I just wanted to feel wanted again. That's the part people don't like to talk about. After a while, being alone starts to mess with your head. You stop feeling like a man. You start feeling like a spare part nobody needs. When she disappeared, it wasn't just her that was gone. It was the house I sold back home, the job I quit, the plans I made, even the excuses I told my kids about why Dad needed a fresh start. All of that just collapsed into this quiet, empty room that smelled like cheap soap and stale air conditioning. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, boots still on, staring at my phone like it might suddenly come back to life if I stared hard enough. No messages, no missed calls, just silence. The kind that feels loud. That's when it hit me. Whatever I thought I had, whatever I believed this was, it was already over. And the worst part is, I still didn't know why. I'll tell you how I got there, but I need you to understand something first. I didn't walk into this blind. I walked into it hopeful. And that's what makes it hurt so damn much. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I didn't wake up one day and decide to move across the world for fun. This didn't start in the Philippines. It started back home after my marriage ended and the house went quiet. 20 years married, 2 kids, a routine so locked in I could have done it in my sleep. Then, one day, it was over. No big blow-up, no cheating story, just 2 people worn down to nothing. She kept the house. I took my tools and moved into a basement suite that always smelled a bit like damp carpet, no matter how much I cleaned. I threw myself into work, long shifts, remote sites, cold mornings where your hands go numb before the sun even comes up. That kind of work keeps your mind busy, but it doesn't fix the part of you that feels invisible. When my kids got older and didn't need me as much, the silence got heavier. One night after work, I was sitting alone with a beer, boots kicked off, scrolling on my phone. A buddy from site sent me a link and a joke along with it. Some dating site, Philippines. I laughed at first, said something like, yeah, right, like that's gonna work. But I still clicked it. That's the part I don't make excuses for. I clicked because I was lonely. Because it felt easier than trying to start over at my age back home. Because talking to someone new who didn't know my past sounded lighter. That's where I saw her profile. Angelica. She wasn't flashy, no heavy makeup, Just a soft smile and a short bio that said she liked cooking and watching movies with family. Nothing that screamed trouble. I sent a message without thinking too hard about it. Didn't expect much. She replied that same day. Just a simple, "Hello, how was your day?" That was it. But nobody had asked me that in a long time. At first, it was just messages here and there. Nothing heavy. I'd wake up for work and see a good morning from her. I'd come back to my room after a long shift and there'd be a message waiting. Small stuff, but it adds up when you're used to nothing. Angelica had this calm way of talking, never rushed me, never pushed. She asked about my kids, asked what my job was like, said she liked hearing about snow because she'd never seen it in real life. I joked that she wasn't missing much. She laughed and sent a voice message. Hearing her voice for the first time hit harder than I expected. We started video calling after that, most nights. I'd sit there in my work shirt, still dusty, holding the phone at a bad angle, and she'd be curled up on her bed, hair still damp from a shower, smiling like she was happy just to be there. No big flirting, just talking. That's what got me. It didn't feel like a game. She never asked me for money. Not once in those first months. If anything, she'd tell me not to spend too much on her. That's what made my guard drop. I've been around rough people my whole life. I know when someone's hustling me. This didn't feel like that. I sent her a phone so we could talk easier. She cried when it arrived. Like, really cried. Covered her face with her hands and said nobody had ever done something like that for her before. I remember sitting there thinking, how did I get this lucky this late in life? We started talking about the future without even planning to. Little comments at first. Her saying she wanted a simple life. Me saying I was tired of chasing money. One night she said, "Maybe one day you come here, I show you my home." I didn't answer right away, just stared at the screen. By the time I said yes, I already knew I was in deeper than I wanted to admit. I landed in Manila in the middle of the night. Humid air hit me like a wall the second I stepped out of the airport. Thick, heavy, and nothing like the dry cold back in Alberta. I was sweating before I even found the baggage carousel. Angelica was waiting for me outside. I spotted her before she saw me. She was wearing a light blue dress and holding this tiny cardboard sign that said, "Hi Marcus," with a heart on it. When she saw me, she smiled so wide, I forgot how tired I was from the flight. We hugged. Not one of those stiff first date hugs. This was warm, familiar, like we already knew each other. She smelled like jasmine, and something else I couldn't place. Maybe soap, maybe perfume, maybe just the air over there. She grabbed my hand and didn't let go the whole way to the van her cousin was driving. We stayed one night in Manila before heading to her province. Long ride, bumpy roads, rice fields stretching out forever. Her little sister sat on her lap most of the way. Her nane cooked dinner that night, chicken adobo and some kind of soup I couldn't pronounce, but it hit the spot. They served it with Coca-Cola in a glass bottle, ice cold. I remember that detail more than I should. Her family didn't speak much English, but they smiled a lot, giggled when I tried to use Tagalog. I tried to say salamat and ended up sounding like I sneezed. They laughed so hard I couldn't help but laugh with them. We spent our days walking around town, riding tricycles, going to the market. At night, she'd sit next to me on the bamboo bench out front and lean her head on my shoulder like we'd been doing it for years. One afternoon, she took me to a small plot of land near a river. Said her uncle used to plant vegetables there. "We can build here one day, if you like," she said, real quiet. I just looked at the view, the trees, the water, her beside me, and nodded. It felt like the first time in a long time where the future didn't scare me. Back in Canada, I never daydreamed. Too busy working, paying bills, fixing busted pipes, or chasing deadlines. But out there in the province, I caught myself thinking about stupid things, like what colour the walls of our little house could be if we'd have chickens, maybe a garden out back. Angelica brought it up one night after dinner. We were sitting outside, her head in my lap, mosquitoes buzzing around the candle. She said, "If you want, we can start the house soon. My cousin knows a builder." She looked up at me like she was scared to ask. I told her I wanted that too. I meant it. We didn't talk numbers right away. I was the one who offered. I said I could send money in chunks. Start small. She hesitated like she didn't want to be a burden. That hesitation? It made me trust her even more, so I sent the first wire, 10,000 Canadian, enough to buy the land and start building. She said the lot was in her cousin's name, but it would be ours. I didn't push on that. I figured maybe that's how things work over there. I'd only been in the country a few weeks. Who was I to question it? The next time we talked, she was all smiles. Sent me a blurry photo of a lot with a small marker on it. Said it was ours now. I saved that photo. It's probably still in my phone somewhere. At first I'd ask how things were going with the build. She'd say the weather was bad. Then her uncle got sick. Then the local office was taking forever with permits. Always something. I started to feel this little itch in the back of my mind, like something wasn't lining up. But every time I saw her smile, or she reached for my hand, that doubt faded. I wasn't just building a house. I was building a future. At least, that's what I told myself. It was a Tuesday, and we were supposed to check on the land together that morning. Angelica had been talking for days about where the kitchen should go. She even teased me, saying she wanted it outside like her nanny's, so she could cook proper Filipino food without smoking up the house. We'd sat on the bed the night before, sketching little layouts on a napkin with a ball pen. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like something real. So when I woke up and noticed the room was quiet, I didn't think much of it at first. The sun was just coming in through the thin curtains. Her side of the bed was made neatly, which was odd because she never made it that tidy. Her flip-flops were gone from beside the door and the bathroom light was off. No sound. No note on the table. Still, I figured maybe she went to buy breakfast or pick something up from the store. She'd done that once before. I made myself a cup of instant coffee and sat by the window, watching the tricycles rattle past and listening to the buzz of the town waking up. I checked my phone. No messages. I sent her one. "You out?" No reply. I waited. An hour passed, then another. I tried calling. It rang once and went straight to voicemail. That's when the nervous feeling started creeping in, low in the gut, like a bad instinct waking up. By lunchtime, I had gone from calm to pacing. I walked down to the front desk and asked the receptionist, a quiet older lady who always smiled at us, if she had seen Angelica leave that morning. She looked uncomfortable, then said she saw her walking out alone around 6, carrying her tote bag. I asked if she mentioned anything, and the woman just shook her head. That was it. No one else had seen her since. I started walking around town, checked the bakery where she liked to get pandesal, stopped by the tiny cafe where she once got us halo on a hot afternoon. I even asked the tricycle drivers out front if anyone had picked her up that morning. Most didn't recognise the name. One nodded slowly and said maybe he took her to the bus stop, but he wasn't sure. I was starting to feel like I was chasing smoke. I went back to the room and waited. I stared at the door like it might swing open at any second, and she'd come back smiling, holding 2 bags of groceries, saying, "Sorry, baby, I took longer than I thought." But the door stayed shut. The sun went down. My coffee went cold. I called again. Still voicemail. The next morning I was still in the same clothes, still in the same chair when my phone buzzed. It was a Facebook message from an account with no profile photo, No friends, no posts. Just one line of text. She's in Manila now, with another foreigner. I just stared at it, read it 5 or 6 times, then read it again, just to be sure I wasn't dreaming. I didn't respond, didn't even think to. I just sat there, holding my phone, feeling like the floor had fallen out from under me. I wanted to believe it wasn't true, that it was some troll, some jealous ex, some bitter relative trying to stir things up. But deep down, I knew. The silence, the clean bed, the vanishing act. It all made sense now, in the worst possible way. She didn't just leave, she planned it. And she didn't even say goodbye. I didn't feel angry right away. That would come later. At first, I just felt small. Like a fool. Like I'd been walking around with my heart out in the open and someone had just taken it, smiled, and walked off. I wish I could say I broke something or yelled or stormed out into the night. But the truth is, I just sat there, staring at the door. Because when someone disappears like that, what else can you do? You wait, you hope, and then slowly you start to realise they're not coming back. The flight home felt like a punishment. 13 hours in economy with 2 checked bags and a carry-on that held everything I had left. No house, no job, no plan. Just me, sitting by the window pretending to sleep so the guy next to me wouldn't ask why I looked like I'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. I didn't go back to my old place. Couldn't. My ex had sold the house and my name was long off the papers, so I crashed at my buddy Dave's trailer outside of Edmonton. He's a good guy. Didn't ask too many questions, just handed me a beer and said, "You'll figure it out." But I didn't. Not for a while. I didn't tell my kids the whole story. Just said things didn't work out. My daughter asked if I was okay, and I told her I was. I wasn't. I barely ate. Lost about £15 in a month. Couldn't bring myself to touch the tools. Couldn't bring myself to talk to anyone who hadn't been through something like it. The shame was like a second skin. You walk around carrying it, even when no one's pointing fingers. Some nights I'd open my phone and scroll through old photos, screenshots of video calls, the picture of that piece of land by the river, the napkin sketch of our future house still folded in my wallet. I knew I should delete it all. I just couldn't. Not yet. I wasn't mad about the money at first. That came later. The first few weeks I was just grieving the idea of her, the version of Angelica I thought was real, the one who smiled when I said corny jokes, the one who made me believe I could love again. But when the fog cleared and I started thinking clearer, that's when the real anger came. $10,000 down the drain, years of savings, gone. I'd worked my tail off in -30 temps to stash that away. And she took it without blinking. I kept wondering, was any of it real? Did she ever care? Was there a moment, even a second, where she felt bad about what she was doing? Those questions eat at you. Not just because they hurt, but because you'll never get the answers. And that's the part they don't tell you when they talk about scams or heartbreak or whatever. It's not the money or the embarrassment that breaks you. It's the silence, the not knowing. The fact that you gave someone your trust and they walked off like it meant nothing. So I stayed quiet for a while, just tried to survive, until one day I got a message from her. And that was a whole different kind of pain. It had been 6 months since she disappeared when I got the message. I was at the hardware store with Dave, picking up some sealant for his leaky roof. My phone buzzed, and I almost didn't look at it. Figured it was spam, or one of those scam calls from Ontario. But when I saw her name on the screen, my whole body froze. Angelica. I stood there in the aisle, surrounded by paint buckets and cheap caulking guns, staring at that one-line message. I'm sorry for everything. That was it. No explanation, no update, no asking how I was, just that. At first, I thought I'd reply. I even typed out a dozen versions of a response, some angry, some sad, one where I asked why, one where I just said, "Why did you lie to me?" But I never hit send. I just stood there with the message open, heart thumping, like I was back in that hotel room, waiting for a door that never opened. I showed it to Dave later that night. He looked at me and said, "You're not really thinking of writing back, are you?" I wasn't sure, but I didn't. I deleted it. Blocked her. Finally. It wasn't closure, not really, but it was a kind of choice. I chose to stop giving her space in my head. I chose to stop hoping for a reason that would make it all feel better. Because the truth is, there is no good reason. Not for what she did. You know what I think now? I think she saw a guy who was lonely, who wanted connection, who led with his heart instead of his head. And she used that. Whether she meant to hurt me or just got swept up in her own survival story, I'll never know. But I do know this. I wasn't the first guy she did it to. And I probably won't be the last. And I'm not going to sit here and say I've healed completely. That'd be a lie. I still flinch when I hear a certain ringtone. I still hesitate when someone new says they care. But I'm rebuilding. Slowly. Brick by brick, like the house I thought I'd build with her. There's a saying back home. Measure twice, cut once. I wish I'd measured more than just her words. I wish I'd looked at her actions with the same sharp eye I use on a job site. But I didn't, because I wanted to believe. And that's the hardest part to admit. Not that she scammed me, but that I let her. And that was Marcus's story. A tough guy who thought he finally found peace in the Philippines, only to watch it slip right through his fingers. Stories like his aren't just about scams or money. They're about what happens when someone lets their guard down and leads with trust in a place they don't fully understand, with someone they thought was different. It's easy to judge from the outside, but the truth is, loneliness makes a lot of people take risks they never thought they would, and sometimes the people who look the safest are the ones you never see coming. If this story hit you hard or reminded you of something you've lived through, let us know in the comments. We read everything. And if you're new here, subscribe for more real stories from inside the Philippines. We share the things most people are too afraid to talk about. Until next time, be careful out there.